Everyone, welcome to a very special edition of Independent Artists Unite. I have been pursuing this gentle man for 2 years, perhaps.
Sometime. Yeah, I
Please
think so. Just
help me
about.
welcome Postlooperish to the show. Finally,
Thank you. Finally,
the
it took some
enigmatic Postlooperish.
it took some time. I'm a little bit of a hobbit, and
I'm
yeah, it's been
I'm
about
so
2
excited.
years.
I
Me
am
too.
so excited about this, man.
Me too. Good to finally see you in person. Thanks for all the playlist ads for sure over the years now. It's been a
Oh
couple of
yeah.
years.
Well,
So
thanks for all the music, man. I mean, geez, wow.
absolutely.
Yeah. Um, you know, I there are certain people that don't like to do these kinds of things, and I totally respect that because I mean, it's
It's
silly
the
and it's
intranet.
weird. Yeah, yeah, it's weird. It's weird. It's a weird
Right,
thing to do.
right. I
But
should be used to it, but at work with all the Zoom meetings and stuff like that. But no, it's good to be here. It's good to finally talk to you. Absolutely.
yeah, man. Well, I think you were one of my like very early discoveries on Instagram when I came on here a couple years ago. I think I discovered you quick soon after I discovered Pain in the Ass. I was like
Yeah,
making
James.
making making all these discoveries and
Yes.
yeah, it's just so weird how this just like one thing led to another, and suddenly it really feels like there's a solid community here. I mean, for me, and I don't know, did you always feel that way, or were you like, or is this something you feel
Uh,
like has developed?
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think we came together over time and we're picking up pieces and different musicians, and somehow we just kind of aggregate into this kind of a little community. But yeah, with Pain in the Ass and Kevin, I'm going to slaughter the name, but Mesrukovic.
Yeah, yeah, that's
It's
real. Yeah,
terrible.
yeah, yeah,
But definitely collaborating with those guys and just, and having the backbone of Renee back there too and kind of pulling us
yeah,
together. It
yeah,
feels
yeah.
like a little knit community now.
Oh, that's right. I
It's
may
really
have
cool.
found out about you from Renee actually, because
I think so.
he was really a supporter of yours, like always too.
Yeah. Super
Um,
appreciated too. Yeah.
yeah, and yeah. So it's like it's almost like I keep checking back with people if they don't want to do this because I think of you as like such a pillar, of this
I appreciate it.
community, because you are so involved simply just the volume of work that you put out there, like
Yes. Yeah.
and I was like which I identified with because when I first like started on Instagram and stuff like that, I also was going at like a crazy breakneck pace,
Yeah.
producing everything myself and stuff and doing like an album a month or something like
Yeah.
that.
I mean, if it comes out, it
And
comes out, and you just kind of go
yeah,
for it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I actually, since I started working with James, I was like, okay, this is slowing me down a bit, and like maybe that's a good thing. So and I'm wondering how your feelings about that have changed because this has been a big
Yeah.
moment for Post Looperish. Now you have done this major cleaning house on
Yes, I have.
Spotify, and you've done some, and you just released, this month Anthology, which
Yeah.
is it just remastered or did you do some re-recording on these songs as well?
So I didn't do any re-recording, but I definitely kind of remixed things and remastered it. And yeah, so those are kind of the top songs from this year. But it didn't start. It started with me just wanting to. I really, growing up in the 80s and 90s, I loved all that music, and I really loved a bunch of different music. Like I was
Mm.
into hair metal, I was into grunge, I was into alt rock, and I didn't ever have one genre that I really
We have
loved.
that in common. We have that in common. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and so everything that comes out is like a combination of all those things, and it's not conscious, it's more subconscious. But when I got on Instagram, I just wanted to kind of relive those years of the music videos by kind of gluing
Mm.
together the gifts and things like that. I just miss that because it's so creative, and it had the visual and the music too. And when I first got on, I was doing a ton of stuff, but they were all just like a verse chorus. It wasn't really a full song or anything like that. And over time, I started to dig in more, and I love the learning process of mixing and things like that. So I just started to make, full songs, and It just got out of hand, and I felt like over time, I got some numbers for you.
Oh yeah.
2022 had 199.
Wow.
And now they're not all full songs, but
Yeah.
surprisingly, there is a lot of full songs. 2023, most of these were full songs, 117, and I'm up to 70 this year. So, but the funny thing is, I never consider volume at all. Like I'm
Mm.
almost a little bit embarrassed if I try to play it down. And that was the coming back to the streaming clean out. I have a very mechanical way of doing it. I don't really prep anybody. I just say, hey, it's available right now on the story. I don't really call it out. And then I ended up with 141 streaming songs. And I was just like, at this rate, I'm going to have 500, by the end of next year. So I had to kind of pull back and change how I shared stuff with people. And it's overwhelming to look at, and I can't imagine anyone trying to sift through it. So I just wanted to kind of pull back a little. I still have some good albums out there. I still have Mirror Tears and Sacred Text and uh, Forget Me Not and all the collabs, which I absolutely enjoyed and
Mm.
learned so much from. But eventually, you got to pare it back, and then I'm just going to kind of live on the Bandcamp home now and just kind of still, push them out. I just pushed out another one yesterday, The House and the Crow, a very like post-punk song.
Oh,
But
cool.
yeah, it's just about kind of changing like the mindset. Like I think as musicians we're trying to be like, well, we need to make our music and express ourselves, but then put it out there. And it doesn't necessarily all have to be, put on Spotify, I guess. And so yeah, that's kind of the rationale around it.
Okay. So from this point onward, is the different, is there going to be a change in process? Like you will continue, from what I'm hearing, to keep putting songs on over Instagram and maybe even song segments, but there will be more of a discernment in terms of what you will put on streaming services?
Yeah, definitely. I think you just pare it down. So each year I'll probably put out like an anthology.
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
Next
yeah.
year might be anthology two, or maybe if there's a special album, I can put it out there. But for the most part, I think I want people to go to the Bandcamp page, and it's not really about financial support or anything like that. I would give anybody a code, but it's just a nice, neat package where it's all
Mm.
just my stuff, and I can control it and things like that. So.
Yeah,
But I'll
yeah, yeah.
always put stuff on Instagram and put those, videos on there and stuff like that. I just enjoy doing it and just watching them myself and trying to piece together a little story.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I've
Yeah.
always loved that about you, that you've done that, because it was, and I've learned a lot from you, I feel like, because it was like from the second that I came across Postlooperish, it was like it felt what I was impressed by and what really marked me. I mean, of course, I love the music and I love the visuals, but it was this cohesive package. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where the way that you use the gifts and the it just was like, and I think even in the beginning, it was everything was black and white too, right? So that
A
was
lot of
like,
stuff is black and white. Yep.
or a lot
Yeah,
of,
a lot
yeah,
of stuff.
a lot of the videos and a lot of the album covers, and it just was so, it was just such a heavy vibe, you know what I mean? And I think
Yeah.
that's hard to like, it's hard to like kind of come by, actually, you know what I mean? Like when you can, especially in today's day and age, when you can literally do anything,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
at
It's open to
home,
everybody now.
yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. So it's like, okay, well, I can do everything, now where do I start?
Right. Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right, and it's funny that I'm very OCD about the grid on Instagram. So
Mm.
I don't break the grid. So they're all videos. There's no like rando kind of posts or memes or anything like that, which I do
Okay.
enjoy the memes. So I tried to keep it all together, and I put fictional character out there because I don't like to interject myself personally into the music because I want the music, to speak for itself. And a lot of times it's just about creating the vibe, and
Mm.
just the atmosphere of it. The songs, how I write is kind of poetic and it's not really clear. Like, and I want people to take what they want from it and interpret. You can interpret the words a number of different ways, and I think that's always been an influence for me in the past, growing up in the '80s and '90s, and having those poetic songs and loving the Smiths and the Cure and Dinosaur Jr. And you kind of take what you want from it, and as long as you're painting the mood and the vibe, and so that's what I try to do is just
Yeah, I'm
get
curious
that mood
as
out there.
I'm curious as some of the like do you have some like conscious influences in terms of your lyric writing? Because I hear also a lot of like metaphysical things, you know, it's very like
Yeah,
the universe and what are we doing here and
yeah,
these kind of existential questions as well, you know.
yeah. No, for sure. I grew up loving sci-fi and science. I'm actually day job as a scientist, so I have this weird thing where like I have
Oh,
a
is
very
that
strong
right? Oh,
creative
I love
side.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So, I have the left and the right brain. Like I love the data part of it, but I also love the creative side too. And I'm a big Star Trek fan, big sci-fi fan, so I love to think about those concepts and like, who are we here and what else is out there? And it's very sort of outer worldly, sort of, thinking about musing
Uh,
about those kind of concepts. I think that's where it comes out. I mean, I think a lot of the influences too. I mean, my first cassette was The Cure, 1985, Head on the Door, and so, but at that time, there was hair metal, grunge was going to start soon, and I just took it all in. And
mm,
when I write, there's nothing really conscious about it. Like whatever kind of comes out, and all those songs are just recorded in the moment. There's nothing that I ever go back to the next day or try to, other than tweaking the mix. I don't add parts or anything. Everything is like one shot deal. And
mm,
that I guess the point is I'm trying to just flow with it, whatever comes out. And I consciously think to myself, when I get, how sometimes you get like, well, this is good, or I could do something else. You just say to yourself, this is correct for me at this time. And uh, that liberates you from just kind of going forward and not kind of second guessing yourself.
mm.
So that's a
Yeah,
big piece.
I have a very
Yeah.
similar philosophy, yeah, and I feel sorry for people that don't have that, you know, because I also know, I mean, I'm sure, well, we know people that
It's
really beat themselves up and go over and over and
right.
over things, you know, which I just don't,
Don't do
I
it.
never do at all. I'm like one
Nope.
take vocal, and I'm like, you know, James has to make me do something over. Hey, you know what? Do this one over,
Yeah.
and then I just do it in one shot, take it again, and
And that's what I like working, and I like working with those guys and all the collabs I've done. I mean, Pleasure Policy, Hexforms, James and Kevin. A lot of collaborations teach me to slow down because I just kind of put
Mm,
it all out there like you. And
yeah,
in
yeah,
my
yeah.
own music, there are straight up mistakes in there all the time. I'm doing double tracks. I'm saying this and the at the same time, and I try to be a little bit better about kind of correcting those things. But for the most part, just kind of put it out there and then you kind of sit back after it and say, oh, what was I trying to say there? Is like these subconscious flow into the lyrics and the music. So
Mm,
it's really about kind of taking yourself out of it, and that's where a lot of people are confused because I think they're trying to think like I'm going to gain something for this, or like I don't know, people are going to. But when you're too outside and looking outside, I think you miss the part that you can contribute inside. So
yeah,
you just
yeah.
take yourself out of it, and again, fictional character. I'm just not even. I don't even type anything on the post. Like it's very unusual when I did the stream out cleaning to have a couple paragraphs. We were like, oh, he's an actual person. He's
Yeah,
talking.
I'm like, wait a
You know,
second, he's talking to
yeah,
us. What's
he's
going on?
talking. What do we have to do? Like, what's going on here? Like, this was just a video with a candle on there. The
Is this
subtitle.
another end of times?
Right, I know, yeah. But I mean, and it's a little bit deliberate because I just want people to focus and enjoy on that 1 minute that they're looking at the video, kind of the vibe of it. And it's not important, the background necessarily. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And can first of all, I just love the fact I didn't know that you were a scientist. So
yeah,
and then you're a Star Trek fan because
yeah,
so it's like you're Spock and Kirk in one.
yeah. Yeah. I actually just went to a Comic-Con and Kirk was there. I didn't see him. I left before. This was yesterday. Man, he's pushing like 93, but he's still going. He's still signing his
Unbelievable.
autographs.
Yeah, yeah,
It's crazy.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
I was such a Star
So,
Trek fan too. Me and I have four older sisters, and
okay.
my closest sister, we were watching Star Treks all the time together. And I still like, you know, the love theme from, when Kirk's falling in love with someone,
Yeah. Very dramatic.
that
Yeah.
music, that music, it still gets me. It's like tugs at my heart. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
because
And
there's still a part of me that like learned everything about love from James T. Kirk, which is really fucked up.
and fighting too, and fighting
Yeah,
too.
that is not so.
Yeah.
Yeah, double fist,
Double fist. Yeah.
twice as
But
deadly.
and it kind of makes sense if you're into that kind of drama and stuff. Like that's how I injected into that. I think music should be fantasy. This is where we kind of break off from reality. So I like the dramatic and try to weave that in there. And again, painting the moods and stuff like that. So yeah, all these different influences from television, pop culture, the bands that we love, all kind of make us who we are, and it's okay if it's not necessarily aligned to any genre. I mean, that's the whole ish part. You
Mhm.
should probably break down where I came up with Postlooperish because it's kind of an insane
Yeah, yeah,
story, but
yeah.
it didn't mean too much. I got on Instagram and post was basically just post punk. I think people kind of got that
Okay.
part, but the looper part was I have a pedal and I used to make a lot of different pedal lines and loops on that pedal with the guitar and stuff like that. And my original thought was, I'm going to do that on Instagram. I'm going to have these loops basically
Mm.
and just, stack them together and play the little GIF video. But for some reason, honestly, I got into the DAW software and I couldn't line up the loops, and they were always slightly off. So I never actually did anything with Looper. That was the original idea, but never actually came to fruition. And then Ish is
Okay,
pretty
interesting.
obvious.
Yeah,
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 and then Ish is just like it's never going to be one thing. It's always going to be all these influences, colored by my experience. Like the prism of each of us is filtered, all the stuff is filtered out, and it's unique every time. And so that's
yeah.
kind of, and then you just slam them all together. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to type this out, and then the rest is history, I guess. And now I'm stuck with it. I should have been, Fuzzy Bat Feet or something more, something more interesting that people can get behind. And I think a lot of times people can't get past the name, like it to even click on this stuff because it's so insane. But that's
Oh,
okay. I
really?
mean,
I've always loved that name, and it's always made sense to me. But
oh,
I
really?
I,
Okay.
I injected my own meaning into it because
Right. Yeah.
I was thinking about this like digital age where if at least me personally, if I'm songwriting, I'm fiddling around with something, I often start with a
Yeah.
loop, right? And
Oh, absolutely.
and so I thought it was like that you were trying to go into a new phase than just use loops all the time in a
Hmm.
digital way. But you
Yeah.
weren't totally committed to that. It's ish like, but I might use a loop here and there or something. So anyway, that's
Right.
what I decided.
Yeah. No, and I love that people have different ideas for it too. And I mean, think about like I just remember in high school like Pearl Jam. Like what is Pearl Jam? But then you
Yeah.
associate now Pearl Jam with this whole band and history. And I hope people do that eventually where they, the name doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's a little goofy, but then you get the visualization of the videos and the vibe and sort of the drama and stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
the best
Well,
payoff when it's like batshit crazy, but then it means something to somebody eventually.
I think you've been very successful at that. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit about like your work ethic on all these songs. And do you have like a specific structure? Like I see, of course, you have an area there that's behind you where you
Got my guitars, a little too many.
where you do your
I,
alchemy. But is it like I wake up in the morning, early in the morning, I sit down, I work on something for the day? I mean, are you that
right.
structured, or where do you fit this into your day? Especially
Well,
when you're
I
a
work.
scientist by day.
Yeah, and I got two kids, and my wife's very patient with me, allows me to the time to do all this stuff. But really,
Oh
other
yeah,
than
that's
working
a
during the
very patient
day,
wife right there. Yeah.
yeah, she is. Yep, she's supportive, and during the day, obviously, I'm just working. But honestly, I think the volume comes from, and again, it's never intentional, but I only sit down for like an hour and a half. It's not very structured. I'll do more on the weekend. Maybe I'll
Okay.
get out one, two, or three on the weekend, but honestly, the rhythm section is really important for me. So I love the 80s drum machines,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of those sounds are literally right from those sound banks. They're not even edited really.
Yeah.
So the genuine sounds from the 80s, and I build the rhythm structure first. And after that, it really is just free flowing. I pick up the guitar, I'll play a line. I don't even go back to it. Like whatever I play kind of ends up being the song,
Yeah.
and that's contributing some of to some of the speed. And then I'll lay down bass, and I love to put. I'm a terrible keyboardist. I cannot play like a piano chord to save my life, but I love to put little electronic elements into it. And so basically just kind of building these things up, in the course of maybe an hour or two, and then out pops a song. And again, like I don't really have a lot of experiences where I go back to things, but yeah, so I would say it's structured in the sense where you're kind of intentionally laying down the rhythm section, but I never think of anything beyond in the moment, for the melodies and things like that. I just kind of put my hands on the keys and, play guitar and bass and stuff like that, and just whatever comes out is good enough for me.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And but
usually how it goes.
like the time element, is it like, like after dinner or when you get home from work, does your wife know, oh, he's going in for an hour here or something? Or is it
Well,
not that
she
structured?
she is it's not that structured. She is patient, but I'll go downstairs for an hour or two and be able to, just kind of create stuff. On the weekend, obviously, it's a lot more flexible.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
no, I don't. I think I'm very attentive to like quality control, not
Mm,
necessarily time or a specific time or time management like that, but I do want to make sure whatever I'm doing, because I'm always trying to learn. I don't know how
mm,
you learn music production, but YouTube is, basically my music
mm.
tutorial. And I really love that aspect as well, just like learning about it. I'm sure me and James have many conversations about what plugins and this and that and
Mm.
techniques. And
Yeah, yeah,
so I'm
yeah.
kind of still a nerd with that. And
Yeah.
it's almost like you're applying that scientific mind just to sound engineering. Um,
Mm. Yeah,
so there's
yeah.
a little blur there,
Yeah, yeah,
between
yeah.
the
It was like the
left and the right
geeky
again. Yeah.
side of it. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Okay,
okay. Yeah.
but all right, but so are you doing something every day, or is
No,
free?
not every day. I'll do it
Yeah,
maybe, 2 or 3 times a week.
2 or 3 times. Okay, all right, yeah,
Yeah, so it's
yeah,
not too much, but really in those sessions where it's only, I mean, cumulatively, I probably only spend like 3 or 4 hours like writing music and
yeah,
recording it. I'll definitely, as you know too, you'll go back and tweak the mix and all these different things like that. That's fine. I usually don't change
yeah.
parts, but yeah, I'll spend some time doing that. And a lot of times the parts of the tweaking and downloading, that's more than the time recording and actually establishing the song,
Yeah,
because it just
right.
that's what it is. Technology too. So like, yeah, you can be creative, anybody can do this now, but then you have to do all the housekeeping too, all the file transfers and stuff like that. So collectively it's probably about 10 hours a week. So yeah.
Yeah. And what what's your like history with music? Did you used to play in bands and stuff like that, and do
Yeah.
that whole gig, or did in New York City, or you're in like upstate New York, right?
Yeah, upstate New York area. I think both of us were born in Syracuse, right?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that were you
right.
born there? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
that's a really cool connection.
yeah,
I don't live there now, but still in the New York State area. And so I, as a kid, again, I loved all the music that was coming up in the 80s, including the new wave, but also, the metal and things like that. And
yeah.
I played guitar. I started playing guitar at 13. Took lessons for a couple years. That's my main instrument. Definitely is guitar is my main instrument. But my first gig playing with a band, a couple guys that were older than us, my buddy Greg and I were 14, I think. He played bass, I played guitar. Then the singer and drummer in a band called Green Terror were in mid 20s, and we played our first show at a hole in the wall, which was literally a bar, and there was a hole in the back of the stage. I remember them sneaking us in the back because we were 14 years old into the bar to play some, Judas Priest covers, things like that. But that's where it started, and
Yeah,
yeah, I played in tons of bands, and they were all different too. It was like, like post-punky bands, sort of like the indie rock or jangle rock, and metal. And I had a new metal band. I had a funk band, and I played in bands up until about 2002. And then moving around and stuff like that, I just never got back to it. But it's a great benefit now with all the technology to be able to do it yourself, like you said. I mean,
mm,
anyone can buy this stuff over time, and it's really the patience and the dedication to learn it.
mm,
And a lot of times you have to be open that you don't know everything. You have to constantly learn and how to do it better. But
yeah.
yeah, my background is definitely in bands for sure. And then at a certain point, kind of just branched off to do it myself.
It's interesting, you mentioned about the 80s of loving all these different kind of all these different genres, because I was totally like that too. And so were my best buddies like in high school, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was something special about the 80s, maybe because all these groups were grouped in one place on MTV, you know. But I
Yeah,
was like,
absolutely.
because I was like gonna post a story like the other day, and it seemed perfectly natural to me. It was you know, Holy Diver by Dio, you know, which to me
Yeah.
is like it's just like Holy Diver by Dio, you know, Boys Don't Cry by The Cure, you know. It's like,
Yeah. It's all one big ball of wax. And I
yeah,
think it's
exactly.
interesting.
Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that because Dio actually grew up in a town I grew up in called Cortland, and
Is that
that's
right?
about
Wow.
45 minutes away from Syracuse. So he grew up as a child and now the street's named DOA. And my uncle
Oh,
used to
awesome.
play drums in his band when they were in high school.
Whoa,
Obviously not.
awesome.
So there's an interesting connection there. I never met him, and but that's just a little claim to fame thing there. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it's because everything was combined, and nowadays everything seems to be a little bit more where people are picking their groups, and kind
Hmm.
of segregating a little bit more. And I think it was a more rich general culture when everything was piled together on MTV, and you could, enjoy all these things collectively. And now I feel like it might not be, completely true. Maybe it's my perception, but I feel like people are going
Yeah,
off in their own areas now
little
and
niches.
not
Yeah, yeah.
interacting, not interacting. So hopefully I'm the olive branch to that, and I can make some weird music that's unclear genre wise and pull people back together.
And is with Postlooperish, or did you sing in those other bands, or is Postlooperish the first time you're like, okay, I'm doing the singing too?
No, no, I sang in most of them. The Green Chair Band, yeah, I didn't, but yeah, all the other bands, I think I've been the front person playing guitar, which is
Okay,
hard to
okay.
do, by the way. Singing and playing guitar, I never
Yeah,
understood
I
that
did
music.
that too. Yeah, I did that too. Yeah,
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 give me some open chords or something, but it's
yeah.
tough to do. I would never be able to play any Post Looper songs live because they're so a lot of them are complicated. There's a lot of guitar stuff going on intermingled, and I would
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to just be the singer, I guess.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when you bring the looper pedal out again.
That's when you bring the looper pedal.
And
There's got to
then,
be
ding,
18 people,
ding,
you
ding,
know.
hit the pedal and sing the song.
I gotta wheel out like what are my things? I gotta wheel out a xylophone, all my woodblock sounds. It's like an orchestra at this point if you listen to all the music. Three keyboardists. So I have to stick with creating in the DAW for now, I guess. Yeah.
Um, well, the reason why I was asking about your vocals is that I really also see do you feel in yourself that there has been like a development in your vocals over the last year? Because I really feel like
Oh
you're
yeah.
stretching out and trying to do some different things, you know, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I definitely am. I've experimented and trying to find my voice and things like that, but I think Uh, I definitely have done some stuff and not unwilling to do that either, and just kind of put it out there and hey, I'm just gonna do this kind of vibe and then this kind of vibe. But I think it has settled down quite a bit. And what I find with the vocals, and again, a lot of the words are, just poetry and unclear, so people can take what they need from it, is really just if you just relax and use your own natural voice. And that's where a lot of the new stuff is just not trying to, push it or trying to be outside your range, which is
Mm,
challenging. But I think if, over time, trial and error, you kind of settle into your own kind of groove and less is typically more, I found.
yeah. Well, I think I mean, this is another thing too, is that your voice is like instantly recognizable, you know, which I think is also not so easy to do, you know. Did you have like heroes growing up, a vocalist that you like kind of sang after, or did you just always kind of, was it easy for you to have your own sound? Because I think is a very unique sound, you know, you really have your own original voice.
It is, and it's a double-edged sword because it's polarizing. Like people will like it or not. If you like it, then it's unique, and you instantly recognize it. If it's not for you, it's really not for you. But I didn't have a vocal person to pattern it off of. I think it was more just do what I felt was right. But again, Bobbert, um, uh, Jay Massis, who has a totally different style, but
Mm,
really appreciate the unique kind of mumblings
mm,
that he did. I love Maz,
yeah,
regardless for his art, I love Maz. And
yeah,
Jane's Addiction, there's just, Perry's voice. I know he's in battle now, but it's
mm,
just you instantly, hear that voice and you know exactly who that is.
oh
And
yeah,
it's high pitched, there's
mm,
there's differences in tone and stuff, but that's what I appreciate. I appreciate folks just, doing their own thing and kind of not being afraid of that. Yeah.
yeah. Um, and with all the like, you've done all these really awesome collabs, and some of which you touched on. Were these? Did you reach out to them, or did they reach out to you? Because I've also done some collabs, and it takes some courage to put yourself out there like that to say, hey,
Oh, sure.
you know,
Hey, I like
it's
your
not so easy. Yeah.
sound.
Yeah.
I think it's been a mixed bag. I mean, the people I've collabed with, I have to write things down so I don't forget it. But Pleasure Policy,
Yeah.
Hexforms did a whole cassette now, the first physical media for me and Josh
Yeah.
on
I
Final
love
Hour
I love that.
transmissions.
I think that may be my
It's
favorite
beautiful.
thing. Yeah, yeah. I love the
It's a
hex, you
beautiful
and the hex
cassette.
forms. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Really appreciate Silas for doing that for us. And then James and Kevin, of course. And I think it's, sometimes I might reach out, sometimes they might reach out. Shades as well. Excellent vocals and lyrics there. And I think all these collabs just, teach me, and hopefully I'm teaching them different ways to approach music and writing. And it's a
Mm,
great joy for me, and it's really fun just trading back, stems and be like, hey, do you like this guitar part, and going back and forth and tweaking things and just trying to figure it out over time. And all of them are great songs too. The tough part about a collabs is not everybody will gel, and I don't know if you found that in your work,
yeah.
and not in a negative way, but like, you get like maybe you respect somebody, but it's just not gonna work
Yeah.
together. So you do have to be not I wouldn't say careful, but you just have to make sure that like it makes sense to do that. And you can have great
Yeah. I
musicians
mean,
on either
yeah.
side, and they just kind of don't come together. But for all the ones I've done so far, definitely super appreciative, and great songs too.
Yeah, sometimes it is like that, and I have encountered that, and I think it's like it helps to just acknowledge that and say, hey,
Yeah.
this is not the thing.
Right,
But
and it's okay, it's
yeah,
fine. It's, you always want the song is what people hear. And
mm.
so whatever that means to do the best part for the song, channeling Rip Rubin here, is a guru. He's
Oh
just like
yeah, yeah,
whatever,
you've posted a lot of that Rick Rubin stuff. I
I do,
love it.
yeah.
Yeah. Have you
Rick
been through that
Rick
book
is like,
too? Oh, yeah.
I haven't. I've listened to a
Okay,
lot of
yeah.
interviews. I
Yeah, I
feel like
got the
he's a
audiobook of that, when I was
oh, do you?
actually the
Okay.
last time I came to the US, I was that was my travel audiobook. I listened to the
Nice.
whole Rick Rubin. Yeah.
And,
Yeah, it's
and
really
he's
good.
right. He's so funny. He's like, I don't know anything about anything. He doesn't know how to play the instruments, but
Yeah.
again, like where you talk about that sort of high level awareness of things. He's just like, just do stuff, And,
Yeah.
and when you do collab, make sure that you're doing the best thing for the song. And it might not be your part. As
Yeah.
a guitarist, like I want to put guitar in things, but it might not be the right time, and I'll have to pull back and say, the song sounds better without whatever I was doing on guitar, and switch gears. So I think if you're just open minded, that's the other thing with collabs too. You have to have a good rapport with people. Of course, we're on the internet, we're mailing things back and forth and stuff like that. But I think the more you kind of are open to feedback, the better the collaboration is for sure.
Yeah. 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 I'm actually going to meet one of my collaborators, Burnt Log. Music is
Oh yeah,
coming into Copenhagen on Wednesday, so we're going to have a coffee,
nice.
and yeah, so that'll be cool.
Yeah, yeah. Burt Log, excellent music. Actually, one of the other people that actually put me on playlist. I don't
Mm.
usually seek out playlists, so yeah, for you, thank you very much. Burt Log, definitely others. James has got pretty big playlists now, and
Yeah,
that was the
yeah,
hard part of cleaning out streaming because I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But it just had it's like a ripping a band-aid off. You just had to do it.
Yeah,
Try to
yeah, yeah.
explain the
Well,
reasoning.
yeah. I mean, I did the same thing, but for me, it was just the cutoff point of like starting to work with James. I just felt like it
Yeah,
was so much better, and
yeah,
than the stuff I did um, on my own. Although I love a lot of those songs, but I just thought, this is all gonna stay on SoundCloud, and I'm just gonna keep the stuff I did with James on Spotify, and
yeah,
just build on that. So that was an easy dividing point for me.
yeah. No, he's
Yeah.
so good. And the thing is too, everybody is not great at everything. And I think if you just acknowledge that, I am not great at a lot of different things. I let people do that. Like, you guys are doing that better. You do that. I'll do my thing. And it's okay to do that. It's okay to say, like, if you, I don't know, if you needed some other media or like art is really I can't draw a straight line, so I've got the old style pictures and stuff is kind of the vibe. But yeah, if somebody else is a better artist, let them do art, and then you do the music, and that's how you come together.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have a similar philosophy where I'm just like, I for me it too, it's like what's sustainable, It's like you
Yeah,
have to go with what you do well, and also what you can do fast, what you can, what you can fit in,
yeah,
with your, like you said, family. I also have 3 kids. Um
yeah.
uh and
You got to
just
fit it all in. It's a challenge, but
whew,
it's
yeah, yeah.
if you like to do it and it's your passion, there's a way to do it. And really, the end of all this is just to create. I like the process of it. That's when I'm happy sitting here making the music. Once the release is out, I feel like that's an ending. I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel like once it's out, that's the end. It's not the beginning. It's a kind of a weird sensation.
Yeah, yeah, it is weird. It is weird. Yeah, I'm always trying to refocus on that, and I'm trying to appreciate, when the creativity happens, and really appreciate, oh, this is the magical moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
creation of it. And, when you put it out there, it's, so much of it is
You never.
luck, and who knows what gets thousands of streams and what gets 25. It
Yeah.
doesn't
Well,
always
I'm the
make
one getting
sense.
25.
Yeah, well, that's one some of my songs too. I don't understand, but some just hit with people and some just don't. It's like
That's true.
that's just
And
the
you
way
can't
it.
really worry about it. You can't
Yeah,
worry
yeah.
about it. That's
I,
okay.
I just have like a minute left till Zoom is going to
You
cut
got it.
me up. But what's next for Postlooperish? Are you going to put out another release before the end of the year? Or
Yeah, I'm sure I will. I'll probably put out like an EP or something like that. But yeah, check out my crow song. It was I have a lot of crows around here, so I was thinking about watching the crows or are they watching us? And so it's from the crows' perspective,
oh,
a little
cool.
muse on the crows that are cackling now in the fall. But yeah, I'll just continue to keep going. And Anthology's got 13 songs. They're all polished up for everyone. So I'm definitely still on streaming. I just don't have as much and then
Yeah.
off to the new year, and we'll see
By
what
the way,
happens.
I become like a mini obsession with Enchained. I love that synth. Uh,
Oh yes,
of course, I'm
thank you, I
like a big
appreciate it.
synth lover, of course,
Yes,
no
it's
secret there.
excellent.
But yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But
I
man, you're
appreciate it.
you're so inspirational to me, and I'm so
Thanks,
glad that
Scott.
you just keep on doing what you're
Keep
doing.
on
And